Recognizing quorum, I am calling this committee of the, meeting of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission to order as of 10:30 on February 20, 2018. Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me in the back? Great. Is anybody recording this meeting? Okay. Let me put the public therefore on notice that this meeting is being recorded. We're going to have I think a relatively short meeting today. There's only a few items on the agenda. I've got a few announcements to make at the beginning. We have one set of meeting minutes to discuss and approve, which I think is January 9th, if I'm correct. Thanks. Thanks to the good work of Sean and Christine, we have two proposed contracts with our technology vendors to review and approve, and that's really it in terms of the agenda items that I am aware of at this time. So it should be a relatively straightforward meeting depending on how long it takes to go through the contracts. I think we might be done relatively quickly. Let me go through a couple things. First and most importantly, I'd like to welcome the newest member of our commission. Sitting in the front row is Adriana Campos, who is our new Chief Financial and Administrative Officer. Welcome, Adriana. I think Sean has a couple comments about that.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me add my welcome to Adriana as well. She comes to us most recently as the Budget Director for the State Senate. Prior to serving as Budget Director, she was Deputy Budget Director and Senior Fiscal Policy Analyst. We are very excited to have her on board as we continue to grow as a commission, and she'll be a very valuable asset as we continue to grow in our current space, think about our future space, and again, think about our budget development process and revenue forecasting. She'll be hands-on in a lot of those things and a real valuable member of our team. So
Great.
Welcome.
So, welcome, thank you. Second order of business is I'd like to announce that as of, I think this morning, we have live our new website. This is a picture of or a screenshot of the landing page of the new website. If you go to mass.gov, which is where we have been up to this point, you will automatically get redirected to this website. The URL is mass-cannabis-control.com, and that is active as of this moment. The site is up and operational. It is populated. I don't think it's completely finalized in terms of all the content, but we'll get there shortly. But it is live as of this moment. My thanks to Sean and to Mary Alice for driving this along with Dot Joyce. It's hopefully a lot more user friendly than mass.gov has been for us, and I appreciate any feedback that people have once they've had a chance to go to it. But thanks to Sean and to Mary Alice for this. I just wanted to finally just talk about the schedule coming up over the next couple of weeks. So, as I think everybody's aware, as of last Thursday, the 15th, we are done with our public comment period. I wanted to thank everybody that showed up at our 10 public hearings that we had around the state. I want to thank everybody that sent in email comments to our website. I want to thank all of the organizations that sent us letters as well, and I think the process worked exactly the way it was supposed to, which is that we heard from a lot of people. I think we got input from all ends of the spectrum in terms of the debate and the points of view over this issue. We have a lot of time, or we have a lot of thinking to do among the commission, and it's exactly as I said, the process that we designed, and it worked the way we hoped it would. But we have a lot of work left, starting with next week. So we have 3 days in a row next week where we will meet as a commission in public and do what we did, as I mentioned earlier, do what we did in December, which is debate policy issues based upon the comments that we got vis-a-vis our draft regulations. Those meetings will be at 10 o'clock in the morning, not 10:30, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We'll be in the State House on Monday and Wednesday. We'll be back here on the Gaming Commission on Tuesday of next week. And again, just to reemphasize, the meetings start at 10, not 10:30, which is our normal starting time, and we'll go through most of the day. based upon the decisions we make over those 3 days, we will then get back together in public as a commission on March 6th and March 7th, time and place to be determined. But we will review and vote on the final regulations on those 2 dates, and then submit them for promulgation to the Secretary of State so that they will be promulgated on March 15th, according to our legislative mandate. So go ahead, Commissioner Doyle.
Yes, and one other thing, I'd just like to thank the various facilities around the state that hosted all these public hearings. That was,
Sure.
Obviously probably pretty inconvenient for them, particularly the colleges, accommodating us during their class schedule. So during one of the meetings next week, I do hope to distribute thank you letters for all the commissioners to sign to these various facilities.
I think that's a great idea, so thank you. So next couple of weeks, obviously, are going to be very busy for the commission. Appreciate, as I said, all of the input we've gotten, and we've just got a lot of work to do. But it's been a very valuable, at least speaking for myself, a very valuable process, and given me a lot of things to think about, as I'm sure is true for the other commissioners as well. So that's the plan going forward. First agenda item is, as I said, review and approval of minutes from January 9th, 2018. These are minutes that were prepared last week, but Commissioner Doyle wanted to give everybody a little bit more time to respond or react. So has everybody had a chance to look through those minutes? Any comments or suggested changes? Can I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Let the record show that Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Doyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show that the Commission unanimously approved the minutes from January 9th, 2018. So, Commissioner Doyle, where are we with respect to catching up? Are we caught up now completely?
Well, no, because we still have the meeting that was after January 9th to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we're getting there.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. I think we're pretty close. I thought we were completely caught up, but we're pretty close. And
Yep.
Again, I know I do this every time we talk about minutes, but I still want to thank Commissioner Doyle and Mary Alice for your hard work in pulling these together. And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next agenda item is to review the 2 proposed contracts for seed to sale and for licensing technology. And again, thanks to Sean and Christine for driving this process. But over to you, Mr. Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll start off with the licensing vendor. The vendor selected to enter negotiations was JD Software, a Salem-based company. You have in your materials today, we looked at, from a contracting standpoint, leveraging existing contract structure for the Commonwealth, including the Commonwealth Terms and Conditions, the Commonwealth Standard Contract Form, and then articulating a statement of work that really captured what is unique to this service or software that we would be acquiring. So in the hierarchy of structure, the terms and conditions in standard contract form would prevail in all cases. Then the statement of work is really the meat as to what they will be doing for us. I guess I can give a high-level review of this particular contract. The 2 will be very similar. I should also mention at this point we worked with our contracting or our contract vendor, Luella Wong, in developing the statement of work. We also leveraged existing contracts throughout the state using the Executive Office of Technology, Security, EOTS, which is Technology Services and Security, the former Mass IT. They have kind of model contracts for SaaS solutions, which these are services as software. Software as a service. And this really looks a lot like that. And we had a really productive conversation with JD Software. The real meat is in the timelines. We are as aggressive as we can be within reason, and these timelines would put us on pace for launching the system in time. We have deliverables as well that we've committed to get to them. And then obviously in any contract comes the money and what that negotiated terms are. So I can jump right to that if that's easiest, which is this is a multi-year contract. We are licensing their system, and it is a SaaS solution. The per year cost to the Commonwealth and to the Commission would be $645,000 per year. So the life of the contract, the grand total would be about $2,978,750. That also includes a configuration cost of this year. So FY 18 cost is $398,750.
Okay.
And then we build on top of that into the next year, once it's configured, a licensing fee. That licensing fee is $645,000. I should mention at this point, that is a reduction of what they had quoted us in the response to our.
My bad.
Okay, no, it's fine. I apologize for being a little jumpy.
We might also owe the gaming commission some technology costs after that.
Seriously, how much do we owe the gaming commission after that?
So that's the kind of the meat of the contract is the timeline as well as the pricing. Pricing is aggressive, it is reasonable, and we are also remain confident that this is the vendor capable of performing the functions necessary.
And just a reminder to everybody that that is substantially below what we have in our fiscal 18 budget for the licensing software.
That's true.
So thank you guys for accomplishing that.
Happy to entertain any questions if there are any, of course. Sure.
Go ahead.
Just remind you that this is also, as you know, they are an existing contractor for the Commonwealth already in the Department of Public Health. They are a contract with the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. What they provide to DPH is their registration system, which is through the virtual gateway. So this is a different system we would be procuring, but they are a known entity, a known vendor for the Commonwealth.
Okay, hey, can you just give people a sense of what is required from the commission in terms of deadlines and for input so that they can accomplish their timeline?
Of course. So
Thank you.
What is required of us is to provide them essentially workflows and system processes, as well as the information that we hope this system can capture. I guess, to simplify that a bit, it's really we need to provide them the contents of what an application would look like. What are we trying to capture? Names, business IDs, and also, as you discussed in your draft regulations, this packet system, what information needs to be contained within a packet in order for us on our end to evaluate any potential applicant and keep that process as virtual as possible, also allowing them to upload documents when necessary, where appropriate. And then within that comes the fact that a paramount to this entire contract is security, information security, making sure that as we do accept information from anybody, any prospective applicant, that we make sure that information is secure on our end. And those that can review it and need to review it can and are able to. And those that don't there's systems can be segregated and separated. But also, it's going to allow us to move an application through the process, hopefully with ease, but we also have some training responsibilities for both ourselves as a commission and for the public to make sure that they can navigate our system as efficiently as possible. So our deliverables are really to get those workflows to them, that information
By when?
to capture. It's staggered. Some have actually already passed. We've already delivered some materials to them, but we're looking at really through the rest of this month and into very early March to make sure that they can configure it in time.
Well, we have nothing else to do, so it shouldn't be a problem.
We are underway in those workflows, and again, we're working diligently to make sure that they have what they need to perform there under the contract as well.
Thank you. I have one other question, but anybody, other commissioners have questions or comments? Then could you just describe for the development part, not the ongoing management, but for the development part, what the governance process will be?
So we are looking at trying to keep it as streamlined as possible. So we are hoping in the next few weeks to identify a chief technology officer for the commission. In the meantime, Luella Wong, as well as myself, have been kind of managing the tech needs. Christine has been a real driving force behind getting to the contract process. But from a governance standpoint, it will be myself as a kind of key decision point, as well as the CEO of JD Software, who himself is a system developer. So when it comes down to actually getting decisions made, we hope to be as streamlined and efficient as we can be. And they're a smaller firm, but they also don't have a lot of salespeople. They have a lot of system engineers, and that's really what's been helpful on their end. But from getting materials to them, I think we have an efficient process, and then we have direct contact, and that's all articulated in the contract as well.
I guess the specific question is, do you anticipate prior to this system being launched further reviews by the commission?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, and it could be in the format of making sure that each of you have access to see either a demo or bringing back to the commission in a formal setting I guess a demo or an example of what an application would look like. And finally, I think there are some decision points for the commission to make,
Okay.
especially as it pertains to what materials might be included in an application.
Okay, yeah, so we should just work on laying out that sequence so we can make sure that we've got the agenda structured appropriately for these meetings. Go ahead, Commissioner Tuttle. Do you have your microphone on?
Oh, thank you. It's so clear that a ton of work went into this and so much attention to detail, especially while we have all the hiring and the regs and everything going on. So I just want to really sincerely thank both of you for your work on this. My first question is with regard to when applicants are filling out the applications on the software, if they run into challenges or find bugs or have questions, how do you envision the responses between our staff versus their staff?
Sure, we've negotiated it as in the context of the contract, help desk availability for the commission. And so in the event that folks run into bugs say it's on the public website, if they run into a challenge, we would encourage them to call us. If it's a system question, we would then triage that through JD Software, but we would be talking to JD Software and they would be available to us. And what's particularly there is kind of a help desk. Someone needs to pick up the phone during regular business hours, then also email kind of throughout the night as things may come up. But we need to build on our own, on our end, we have a constituent services position, but we might also need to consider a help desk of sort for all technology. And that, I think, would be helpful for both the JD Software contract as well as the metric CDSL in case there's anything to triage on that end. But from a management standpoint, we would build out our own team internally to field any sort of questions. And if it is a system question, we would then forward it to JD. But we've negotiated those terms in here.
Great, okay. I saw that. Just want to make sure we were picturing it the same way. Wonderful.
I hope so.
Two more questions. And this is obviously my first time reviewing a contract like this, so this is more of like an explain this to me kind of question than like a challenge. So in terms of their staff that is delegated to this project, if for some reason they quit or they're not available anymore, I noticed it was like worded really carefully that the person will be replaced. It was like a replacement will be identified. So I was wondering, do you imagine that we would work with them on identifying the right person, or they would just find the right person, or how do you think that would work?
They would own ultimately their staff and who they would hire. What is important to us is that we make sure that the people that they do replace it. So we've identified their kind of key staff at this point, and as a result, we've kind of approved them that we consent to this person being on our project. Similarly, if there were to be a replacement in their team, we'd want to make sure that we approve of that person working on our project from a qualification standpoint. And so that's more of a gesture to them that if you're going to replace somebody, it has to be equally as qualified. And then they also have several projects. We want to make sure that they're giving us the best team that we can get on our project. So, but it's not as if we would veto a hire per se. We might have the ability to veto someone serving on our project.
But if it was a subcontractor, then we have to specifically approve them.
If they want to subcontract any work as far as a different firm, yes. Yep.
Great.
It's mostly to give us the confidence in their ability to perform the contract.
Right. Okay, good. And then my last question is, in terms of in the event of a breach, in both the contracts, it said that they would immediately notify us and then identify the actions they're taking to address it. I guess I was expecting that to be stronger, like if there was a breach that there would be some kind of like, consequences. So I was wondering about the background of that.
Sure, and so the general law gives us certain requirements as far as if there were a breach were to occur. This was something that was discussed with them in pretty good depth, I would say. So we have an obligation if any of our information is breached, and the discussion point that they raised was it depends on responsibility for that breach as well. So if it's something that is our management of information or files, and they're not therefore responsible for it, I think they would want to try to mitigate their damages there. But this was, I guess it's as strong as we could get it, and I think it's as strong as it can be given the obligations under the general laws as well. But ultimately, any sort of data breach is something that we would be managing very carefully, making sure the notice goes out to anyone's information that is compromised in a timely way. And if it's something they're responsible for, we're going to hold them accountable for that notice, but also making sure that they're taking the right steps to remedy any sort of data security, integrity issues that they might have as well. But it was something that was negotiated, was a something that we talked about quite a bit with them. Mostly, I would say, in the context of trying to learn as much as we could about data security, and especially the SaaS solution, where this is going to be hosted in the cloud, that there's federal security protocols there as well. They are compliant with that. So I guess I would say that the language is as strong as we could possibly get it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I think we should do them one by one. So let's can I have a motion therefore to approve the contract with JD Power, or JD Software, excuse me. I have a motion to approve the contract with JD Software.
So moved.
Let the record show that Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the contract with JD Software. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you doing that. Okay, let's move on to Metric.
Second contract is between the Commission and Metric LLC. As you know, Metric LLC is the seed to sale tracking vendor. This contract looks very similar to the one you just reviewed for JD Software. Key points that I want to flag for you: it's the same time span. Their responsibility again is to configure electronic seed to sale tracking system and provide data management, training support, etc. This contract, from a financing standpoint, is a bit less clear as far as the total cost to the Commission and total value of the contract. What is clear is these are providing a service to us, but they're also providing materials to us. And the biggest material is, of course, tags and tracking tags as well as packaging tags or plant tags. The other thing that they're doing is we're licensing the system, and that's clear, which is $65,000 per year. What they're also doing is charging us a service fee per licensee, so that provides them access to the tracking system. Whether they want to log into the system itself, they're not. Again, Metric does not provide any sort of commercial product to licensees, but if you want to API into their system using your own, whether it's point of sale or tracking software, they charge $40 per month per licensee for that. The tags themselves cost 45 cents per plant tag and 25 cents per packaging tag. So as a result, it's difficult to get a bottom line number, given that we don't know yet what the volume of licensees will be or what the volume of tags will be.
Mm-hmm.
They do provide different options as far as payment of those fees. One option could be, so we will be responsible for the $65,000 a year licensing fee no matter what. And that is budgeted for, allocated for. The Commission could choose to assume or absorb that $40 a month per licensee service fee.
Mm-hmm.
The Commission could also entertain the concept of paying for the tags themselves. Different states use different models. There are, as far as I understand, there's not a state that pays for the tags. The reason being, tags flow based on need, and one thing I think that's important though is we've contracted the price of tags, meaning if licensees are going to pay per tag, that contract, that figure is solidified in our contract. So it's not going to go up next year or the year after that. It's embedded in the contract. I think that's an important step. So is that $40 a month. So if the Commission wanted to entertain paying that $40 a month per licensee, that is contracted for. And we've also worked out an understanding with the vendor Metric that we will revisit the volume of licensees on an annual basis to make sure that we can lock that number in, and therefore give ourselves some budgeting certainty. But we don't know yet what the volume of licensees will be, so it is difficult to say.
Sure.
In FY20, we don't quite.
Well, there's two issues. One, we don't know the volume of licensees, and two is we haven't made a decision as a Commission about whether we're going to absorb that or whether we're going to offset that. And my suggestion, if it's acceptable to the other commissioners, is that in next week's conversations, when we talk about fees in general, because we've gotten a fair amount of feedback on fees, let's include this topic in that conversation, because it's really kind of a form of additional fees that we might impose on various licensees, or we might absorb ourselves. So my suggestion is let's defer that conversation until next week. Does that make sense to everybody?
Sure, as long as it doesn't.
It doesn't complicate anything as far as the contract is concerned.
Thank you.
I think it's also important to remember, in the context of a licensee, a single licensee, the service fees would amount to less than $500 per year. And then, of course, they would theoretically, if the Commission chooses not to pay for the tags, they would pay for whatever volume of tags that they need.
Right.
And so that's why the it's difficult to ascertain an actual total value for the contract, aside to say that the $65,000 per year licensing fee will be absorbed by the commission. Otherwise, this is a vendor that is essentially, it's again a SaaS solution. They would work with us. They also would API from JD Software into the license, the seed to sale tracking system to make sure that once we license an entity, they're automatically put into the seed to sale tracking system. And both vendors are aware and actually, for a contract, required to work with one another to achieve that. Beyond that, that's the real meat of the contract.
Since you raised that, though, can you go back to, just for a second, the JD Software? Because they also have a requirement to interact with the Department of Revenue, so that once somebody is licensed DOR, knows their license, and can start working on tax collection. Can you just
Sure.
talk about how we're addressing that?
There was some hesitation as far as a direct API to the Department of Revenue. What JD Software has committed to is working with us and the Department of Revenue to ensure that any information that is necessary to be moved or extracted from the licensing system is available. And the rationale for that is once we license an entity, obviously the Department of Revenue is going to want to make sure that they are in their system as far as tax compliance, and they want to know what entity has been licensed by us. And so that way they know who to expect, whether it's a sales tax or excise tax, who to expect that from. That's a system, it's not a direct API for the contract. I think there was a concern on the vendor's part that the amount of time and energy it would take to do that. What they have committed to is making sure that they work with us to get any information that the OR might need, absent a direct API. But we work toward that. We also have the ability to pay on a time and materials basis.
And what about the same issue with respect to seed to sale and interact? Is there a required interaction with DOR on that as well? Obviously there is, right? So, and that is an API, or is that the same? Okay, that is an API in the metric concept.
Good.
Great. Other questions? Commissioner Doyle? Commissioner
Nope.
Great.
So I think the discussion point as far as moving, as far as the fees are concerned, I think the reason it wouldn't hold up the contract necessarily is that so long as the vendor is paid,
They don't
I
care.
don't know that they necessarily, I think they would defer to us as far as how that gets paid.
Right.
So.
So, I mean, we need to resolve it obviously from a budgeting standpoint for the
Yes.
commission, but from a contracting standpoint, it's not necessary to resolve at this moment.
Correct.
So, I guess, can I ask for a motion then to approve the contract with Metric?
So moved.
Second.
I'll let the record show that Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Tittle. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the contract with Metric. So, once again, for the fifth time or so today, but it's deserved, thank you, Sean, thank you, Christine, thank you, Luella, wherever you are. These are not easy things to get done, and they got done quickly, they got done well, and they got done in a way that I think is going to allow us to hit our timelines. There's obviously no guarantees with technology development, but getting the contracts done as quickly as you guys did gave us a good chance of getting done in time. So thank you very much for that.
I would echo that sentiment. I think this was a milestone, but we have a lot of work remaining before us to do, and both vendors are committed to that. They're eager to get started. They're eager to start talking to each other, and this is really what will enable that and enable us to continue forging ahead. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, it seems like that's a common refrain every time we finish something and say, great job, thank you to whomever was responsible. We say, yeah, now the hard work begins. So I think we just have to keep repeating that. I am not aware of any additional topics I was not aware of at the time the agenda was produced. Anything else that any of the commissioners would like to address? Then let me just talk about next meetings. I've already mentioned this, but the next meeting is Monday, February 26th. Again, reemphasize 10 a.m. and it's in State House Room 437. I wanted to thank Commissioner Flanagan for working her magic and her connections to get us the meeting rooms in the State House on Monday and Wednesday. So thank you for doing that. We don't want to know what favors you called in to get them done, but thank you. There being no further business for the commission, this meeting is adjourned as of 11 a.m. on February 20th, 2018. Thank you very much.